Good morning, everyone. Trust everyone's had a good week. Enjoyed these cooler temperatures. Fall is around the corner, or maybe even amongst us. We'll see. It'll probably be 90 degrees tomorrow. Who knows? But anyway, trust everyone's having a good week. I want to jump right into today's devotion. I've entitled today's Noticed and Noted. Continuing on with the message from Brother TJ on Sunday, series that started on the life of Job. Scriptures that was used was actually about the first part of Job 1, but I'm going to pick up here in verse 6. Kind of like the first part of this, and 1 through 5 is just Job getting an introduction of the wealth that he has, and then the fact that he is an upright man in the eyes of God. So then we pick up here in verse 6. It says, "Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. And the Lord said unto Satan, Whence comest thou? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. And the Lord said unto Joseph, Hast thou considered my servant Job?" In other words, have you noticed my servant Job? "That there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, one that feareth God, escheweth evil." In other words, takes very particular detail in avoiding evil. So he was very cautious of how he lived. Then Satan answered the Lord and said, "Doth Job fear God for naught?" In other words, did Job fear God for nothing? Look at who Job is. Look at the life that he lives. Verse 10, Hast not thou made a hedge about him, and about his house, and about all that he hath on every side? Thou hast blessed the work of his hands, and his substance is increased in the land. But put forth thy hand now, and touch all that he hath, and he shall curse thee to thy faith. And the Lord said unto Satan, Behold, all that he hath is in thy power. Only upon him put not forth thine hand. So Satan went forth from the presence of the Lord. So we see a couple things in here. First of all, find it very interesting that even the devil knows that Job had been blessed by the hand of God. What he didn't understand was how Job could be upright and be who he was, and it not be based on material wealth. He didn't know the heart, just the same as he don't know our heart. Satan's going to always tempt us from the things in which he fell for, and that being the pride. And so, taken from the notes that I took on Sunday, our lives are noted and being noticed. Two ways. One, our lives are noted and being noticed by Satan. He takes inventory of our lives. Just like he took the inventory of Job's life, he looks at us and he's looking for that crack. He's looking for that area in which he can slide in to entice us, to get us to fall. And he also is, cheering us on for suffering. He wants us to suffer because he feels that, like Job, if we suffer, then we'll be more apt to slide away from doing the Lord's work, that we'll grow bitter on the Lord for suffering. And so just like Brother Ron had mentioned in his devotion on yesterday, Job is a hard chapter, a hard book to understand when we start looking at the justice of God. Why would God allow suffering to come? And of course, there's two ways to look at that. One is we live in a fallen world. The curse of sin is amongst us. The curse of sin is upon this earth. So therefore, disease, sin, suffering is around us. It's in the world in which we live. It's part of the curse. And we know that when the Lord comes, he's going to restore. He's going to renew and take away that curse. He's going to take us out of this. And then we also know that suffering exists as we see here, for God to get the glory. And so, we all suffer. Some people suffer from, anxiety and fear, and it can be crippling. Some people suffer from physical elements, mental elements, whatever it might be. But everybody suffers at some point in time and suffers from something. And so from the notes, no one is exempt. So our question is, when we're going through a time of suffering, or when we've been given a life of suffering, what do we do with that? What do we do with that? And, suffering is universal. It's not this nation suffers, or because we live in America and in the West that we're exempt from suffering, whereas in other places, Christians are assassinated and persecuted and things like that. Suffering is universal. Again, different types of suffering for different people in different places. And suffering can be unexpected and sudden. And so the purpose of this devotion here, and what has been on my heart, is when we go through suffering, what are we going to do? Or when we are going through suffering, what are we going to do? And I think Job gives us we see the human side of Job, that he, and we'll see this later on in the series, that, he's going to confide in his friends and try to get their advice, or they're going to give it to him at least. And he's going to ask God a lot of questions, and God takes those questions just fine. And the same as he'll take our questions just fine when we open up our heart and ask him. But we can know this, that through our suffering, God is still God, and that he walks through us with it. And also that when we are going through things, we need to remember the God that is in our life. The God that we serve is going to be bigger than any problem or any suffering that we may endure. So just remember that as we go through this series in the next several weeks. My prayer is that we all can grow in understanding that God is a just God, and God will never put more on us than we can handle. But sometimes we can get so loaded down that we're going to have to, and be forced to, give it to him, to turn to him and allow him to be the God that he wants to be. Love you guys. Pray you have a great day.